Number 1. So this happened over the holidays, and I'm barely deciding to post about it. My family all went to Mexico for New Year's, and I had just gotten hired for a new job, and I had to work the Monday after New Year's, which is the day they'd be traveling back. Therefore, I couldn't go with them. I didn't think staying at home alone would be a big deal, because I've done it before. We have a dog and an alarm, so I felt safe all the time. This time was quite different, though. It was New Year's Eve, and I had been invited to 3 different parties. I was trying to go to all 3. I was at home getting ready to go to my aunt's first, and I didn't want to show up empty-handed, so I was making cookies. As I'm baking, the alarm system goes off, saying, "Master bedroom window open." That alone scared the crap out of me. I was frozen in the kitchen, not moving an inch. After what seemed like forever, I just grabbed a knife and my phone and started frantically texting my best friend, saying I think someone is trying to get into my house through my parents' window. She quickly replied, telling me to get out of the house. I wanted to, but in order to do that, I had to pass the hallway, and the hallway faces my parents' bedroom. The kitchen is the farthest room in the house from my parents, so I just ducked behind the bar counter and held on to the knife. After a few minutes of silence, I thought I had just imagined the whole thing and that no one was really there. But that's when I heard the window latch move. I can't remember what they're called, but those plastic long rectangles that make noise when you move them. Anyways, I heard those move, and then I heard as if someone had jumped in and landed on both feet. The steps that followed are what made me start hyperventilating. They went back though. And then I just heard nothing for like 20 minutes. I decided to go check. I know, I'm that person. I went with my knife though, and found my parents' bedroom empty. I didn't even check the window though. That was good enough for me, and I ran out of my house, but not before grabbing the cookies from the oven. I went to my aunt's, then my cousin's house, and then finally to my best friend's. She was worried about me, so she asked if I just wanted to sleep over, and I did. I didn't go back home until the Monday morning before work. By the time I was back from work, my family was back. I had already forgotten about my experience on Saturday and hadn't thought about it. The first thing my dad asked me, though, freaked me out. He said, "Why did you open our window and rip the screen off like that?" So, I hadn't imagined it. I just wondered why this person left. I don't know. Thank God, though. But guy or girl that broke into my house on New Year's Eve when I was baking cookies, let's not meet. Number 2. It's dawn, so still a little dark even though all the blinds are open in the kitchen. I flip on the light and start feeding the cats as usual. Through the glare on the window, I think I see someone in my backyard, which wouldn't be unheard of as an older lady rents the guest house behind me. She has her own fenced area though. I get closer and lose my breath as a scraggly middle-aged stranger is in a robe in my backyard, staring at me. He's standing perfectly still and doesn't look away, which immediately struck me with a, "Oh shit, I'm in a horror movie" feeling. I stared back for a bit and realized he was looking at the house, not me. I rationalized thinking maybe he was the older lady's overnight guest and got confused about her living arrangement. Maybe he thinks I'm an intruder. So I step out back and give him a, "Good morning. How you doing?" As I walk up and try to determine his eye line, he answers back normally as if nothing about his situation is weird. Note, he has not made any eye contact, and he's still staring at my house. I then voice the classic passive-aggressive suburbia threat. "Can I help you? I'm your neighbor, and I think my kid's toy is on your roof." 2 things. I know my neighbors. He was not familiar. Also, what kid lands a toy on a roof at this hour? I tell him I'll go up and check after work, kind of shooing him out. He doesn't move, just keeps staring. I repeat, "I'll check after work. You can go. Which house are you? I'll leave it at your door." "And what is it?" He's silent for a moment, as I grow more irritated at his lack of response, and more creeped out. Finally he replies, "Oh, I'm just a couple houses away." He lackadaisically points in no discernible direction. I say okay, and again ask what his kid lost. He speaks again. Really, I could get it if I could come in and go out that window. He points up in an attic vent. No, that's not really a window. I promise I'll check later. Have a good day. Again, trying too politely to shoo him. I've now edged myself over to a loose board from my firewood pile that I could use as a weapon. He continues to stare at the house. His eyes haven't moved at all. I pick up the board and pretend I'm moving it to a table behind him, so I can put him between myself and the fence gate, his hopeful exit. As I'm doing that, he breaks a trance and walks towards my back door. I'm pretty much done with niceties at this point. I run up to block him, board in hand, and deliver the weakest intimidation speech ever. Look, man, I don't know who you are, but I'm sorry. Maybe I don't remember you. It's early, but I can't let you in my house. Please, I'll look on the roof later. He raises up his hand as if to say, No, I don't mean any harm. Tries to put it on my shoulder. I sidestep and put a few feet between us. He speaks again, in a dazed tone. I'm sorry, maybe if I could just use your ladder, I can get up there. I get a little more confrontational and raise the board to show it. Not cocked, but visible. Dude, I said I'd look later. Please leave. I have to get ready for work. He turns, saunters, and looks at the house once more. Now back to his original spot. In a trance again. Please leave. My yell rolls off him. He isn't even listening. But after a yawn, he does casually make his way back down the side of the house. At this point, I dart back inside and watch him from the windows, cell phone at the ready. He leaves and shuts the gate behind him effortlessly, which is, by the way, extremely hard to do. My friends still haven't mastered the lift and pull gate. I asked around and no one knew who this guy was based on my description, and no one has seen him since. I would say he was mentally ill, maybe homeless, and passing through, but he seemed too clean-cut, scraggly, but not dirty. I still don't know what to make of it. It was just so bizarre how he paid so little mind to trespassing and being told to leave. And no, there was no toy on my roof or in my yard. Number 3. I'm a freshman at my university right now. I won't name it due to privacy reasons, but for necessary story details, I'll say that it's a fairly small campus, and it's tucked pretty far into the mountains. I live on campus in a residence hall that's a 15-minute walk from the art building that I often work late at. One night, a couple of weeks ago, I was in there working on a project until 1:30 in the morning when I decided to walk back to my residence hall. My campus is well lit, small, and the sidewalks are populated with emergency alert centers. A pillar with a button that calls campus police makes a very loud noise when pressed. So, I don't feel that unsafe walking alone at night. And given how late it is, I opted against calling my best friend, like I usually did when I walked alone. One last and fairly important detail about my campus is that we have botanical gardens in the middle of it that are open to the public. The botanical gardens are located in a very deep valley on the southwest side of campus, close to my residence hall, and they're closed at night. This is because most of the city's homeless camp out in Boston at night, and some shady shit goes on down there that the authorities don't really like talking about. Apparently a female student was even murdered in Boston 15 or so years ago. Needless to say, you want to avoid Boston at night. So, back to the story. Most of my walk passed without incident. I was humming to myself and looking at my phone occasionally. I was on the last stretch of sidewalk that led to my residence hall. Should be noted that this sidewalk borders a ravine leading down into Boston. When I saw the silhouette of a man walking my way, about 50 feet ahead of me, my brain processed it as, oh, dude just walking. Before I stopped when I really paid attention to how he was moving. He wasn't that much taller than me, but he was very lanky, and I could see from a distance that he was swaying, stumbling around as if he were very, very drunk. It would have been funny to see if I hadn't been completely alone with the guy. I slowed my pace and moved very close to the right side of the sidewalk, bordering the streetlights, and just decided that I would let the guy pass me. As he got closer, I started noticing more details that made me so uncomfortable. He had both arms curled against his chest and was walking with most of his weight on his toes, not unlike someone who's mentally handicapped. This made me more worried. Maybe I was just being paranoid, and this was actually someone who needed my help, but that line of questioning went out the window when he saw me. Up until that point, his expression had been kind of vapid and wandering, but when his eyes met mine, his face split into this huge fucking smile, and he let his arms fall to his side, swinging loosely. It was just about the creepiest thing I'd ever seen. I've gotten accustomed to intoxicated people having glazed or unfocused eyes, and he certainly didn't. They were clear as glass and never left mine. He didn't stop looking at me or smiling as he passed by me, and I quickened my pace after we passed. I figured that the guy was drunk or high, and the mistake that I made was looking over my shoulder at him after he passed me. He had been walking sideways staring at me, with that smile even after I had passed him. When our eyes met, he turned and pointed down into the ravine that led to Botan, yelling, "Hey, do you want to go down there with me?" Hell nah. I made some excuse about having to meet somebody before turning and speed walking back to my residence hall. I didn't check to see if he followed me. I just moved as fast as I could, without breaking into a run, till I made it safely back to my hall, where I pulled out my phone and promptly called campus security. They called me back 20 minutes later and told me that a guy got arrested in the front lobby of another residence hall, matching the description that I gave them. They didn't tell me what he had been arrested for. Needless to say, I've stopped walking alone at night. I have a lot of weird encounters outside my office on my smoke breaks, but I think this one takes the cake, even with how anticlimactic it was. Today I was sitting on the wall side, outside my building smoking, messing around on my phone. I had probably been sitting there for about 2 minutes, without looking up when I finally do notice a guy on the corner about 20 feet away staring intently at me. He's hunched over facing me in the classic zombie pose, wearing a large coat, a surgical mask and gloves. I didn't know how long he'd been standing there, but it was daytime, and the area is relatively populated, so despite being the only people on the street, I wasn't too worried. I went back to looking at my phone, but kept discreetly glancing in his direction to see if he was still there. He didn't move or stop looking at me for probably another minute and a half, just sunken shoulders, with his unblinking eyes pointed directly at me over his mask. Finally, I notice an older man walking towards us. My cigarette is almost finished, so I assume the worst comes to worse. This guy will be near if anything happens. I glance back at my phone and hear what I assume are the older man's footsteps approaching. Before I have a chance to look up, the surgical zombie is sitting within an inch of me on the wall. I'm a polite girl, so I give him a vague smile, while my inner self and personal space are screaming at me to get up and leave. He asks me for a cigarette, so I give him one, and he just continues to sit there with it and unlit. I can't fight my manners, so I ask him if he needs a light, and he gives me a gloved double thumbs up and stares right at me. I ask him if that meant he had one, to which he responds with another double thumbs up. I assume that was him saying he did, so I turn back to my phone planning on taking one more drag before getting up to leave. He then says, "Yes, I need one," so I give him my lighter. He hands it back and I put my smoke out and stand up. He then begins laughing, like full belly laughing. I didn't really know how to respond, so I told him to have a nice day, and I walked into my building. To be honest, I've never really had a fear of people, and I can't say this is the first time I've had someone that has done something like this, but the mask and gloves really added to the absurdity of the situation. Number 5. This happened to me about a month and a half ago. For some context, I enjoy working out 4 to 5 times a week. I go to a CrossFit gym that is relatively small, so the warm-up rounds are usually done outside. The gym is near a street that's surrounded by trees at both sides, and the road stretches for about a mile, which is a great place for the gym goers to run on, and is, in fact, encouraged on some days. I'm also a short female, and I don't really look fit since I'm on the chubby side. This, however, always gave me a false sense of security in my head. I didn't look like the traditional standard of beauty, therefore I wouldn't be a focal point for any creeps. Clearly I was wrong. I got to the gym this morning. When I had the routine on the board, the warm-up said we had to go down the previously mentioned road, that it was actually a pretty warm and sunny day, so I decided to go and do it. It wasn't the first time I went alone down that road, and my biggest worry so far was getting caught up in the rain, which wasn't a concern on this particular morning. I grabbed my phone and my headphones to listen to some music on my warm-up jog, as per usual, and immediately went out of the gym to begin the small walk between the gym building and the beginning of that road. Halfway there, this car passes by me and slows down, driving at the speed that I'm walking. He honks his horn several times to get my attention, and I turned to look thinking he needed directions or something. But when I looked, he gave me this wide, unsettling grin, waved at me, then drove off. At the moment, I didn't think anything of it, since as a female, I do get the occasional honk or inappropriate comment about my bounce, and things like that when I'm outside warming up. So, I simply shrugged it off, turned up the volume of my music, and continued heading towards the intersection that connects to the road. What started to give me creepy vibes was that as I'm walking to said intersection, I noticed a car waiting at the red light. As soon as that light turned green, the car did a U-turn and headed back towards my direction. Once more, slowing down to his speed, he looks at me with that creepy grin, eyeing me up and down, and making me feel exposed. I felt my heart begin to race, but I tried to ignore it since he was going in the opposite direction as me now. And besides, it was the middle of the day, where other cars were passing by, so he wouldn't try anything else. At least that's what I tried to convince myself of. By this time I had reached the intersection, so I turned onto the road and began to jog alongside it. I was a little concerned by this dude literally going out of his way to look at me, but I tried to concentrate on keeping my pace and my breathing at a steady rate, using my music to keep distracted as well. Not 2 minutes had passed when I see, on the opposite side of the road, that same car slowing down beside me again. This meant that he had made another U-turn somewhere, took the light at the intersection again, and turned to the same direction I was walking towards. The man driving looked right at me with that stupid grin. He said some words to me that I didn't really catch, since I had my volume pretty high, before he sped off once more. All right, at this point I'm starting to freak out, because he's gone out of his way twice. I'm hyper aware of my heartbeat, as I feel a wave of panic begin to wash over me. I suddenly realize that I'm just starting my jog down this road, where there are no buildings around, no place to hide, and I'm completely alone. Right up the hill of the road, there's another intersection that can't be seen from where I currently am. But something was telling me that this dude was going to make yet another U-turn and make a pass at me again. I see another jogger a little up ahead, and since I really want to do this workout, I decide to catch up to him. In my head, I figured that he must be one of the gym goers too, if he was running up that road, so maybe I could jog with him and have some company. I pick up my pace to get to him faster. Eventually I do, but I don't recognize him. Remember, my gym is rather small, so the faces get pretty familiar rather quickly. Still, I hoped he was maybe a new member, or just one of the few I hadn't yet met. I just wanted any excuse to not be alone. So I ask him if by chance he goes to the gym down the road, not wanting to be too specific in case he ended up also being a creep. But he tells me no. Shit. I thanked him anyway and decided to bolt back down to the gym. There's no way I'm running up this lonely street by myself, with some stranger following me in his car. God knows what his intentions were with me, but considering his expression, I wasn't willing to take the risk and find out. As I'm heading down the road on my way back, the car passes by me yet again. Just as I had expected, he had gotten to the second intersection and made another U-turn. Still that creepy grin on his lips, still slowing down his speed to drive at my pace. His eyes looking at me as if I was absolutely naked in front of him. He was closer to me now, and I could see through the window that while his left hand was on the wheel, his right hand was on his lap, gripping something. I quickly looked away, fearing that what I thought I saw was what I actually saw. I didn't want to confirm my suspicions, but I was clearly shaken. My jog turned into running when he speeds off again. I'm literally at the verge of a panic attack, only focusing on how the hell I was going to reach the gym safely. Sure, it wasn't that far away, but I obviously couldn't outrun a car. I turn off my music and call my best friend on the phone. I don't know why I did that, since she's overseas studying, and there was no way for her to help me. I should have instead called the police, but my panic-ridden brain was only thinking about getting back safe and having someone keeping me company, even if it was only on the phone in the meantime. While I wait for her to pick up the phone, I noticed the first intersection up ahead, but to my horror, the car was on the very left lane, waiting for the light to turn green. Finally, my friend picks up the phone, and hearing her voice helps alleviate some of my panic. My eyes were trying to focus on both the car and where I was stepping as I ran. I needed to be careful, of course. And then the light turned green. The car began to move and, yes, did a fourth U-turn. I'm trying my hardest to explain this situation to my best friend with breathless, panicky words, when I see the man pass by me again with those eyes and that grin that sends chills down my spine every time I think about it. Luckily, I was nearing the intersection, and I could already see my gym about 400 meters away. My best friend kept telling me to breathe and try to calm down. She knew I couldn't get anxious then. I needed to be safe first. 200 more meters. I'm searching around to see if I can spot that car again. I can only hear my ragged breathing, my heart, and my friend's voice trying to soothe me. Every car that passes by me makes me flinch. I was too jumpy, too panicked by the whole ordeal. Nothing like this had ever happened to me before. 50 more meters. I'm so close that one last burst of adrenaline makes me run even faster. I finally reach the building, climb up the steps to the second floor where the gym is, and burst through those doors. Finally, I made it. I was safe. My body begins to relax as soon as I entered into the familiar, comforting space. My adrenaline was crashing fast, leaving more room for my anxiety to settle in. I tell my friend goodbye since I wanted to tell my coach about the situation, and quickly hang up the phone. Before I could find my coach, however, I fell into a full-blown panic attack. I started to hyperventilate. My body was shaking so badly that I collapsed into a ball on the floor, sobbed uncontrollably, not caring that everyone was watching me. All I could do was try to reassure myself that I was now safe, and that everything would be all right. But I'm never going down that road alone. Again. Thanks for watching, guys. Please be sure to leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate all the positive comments. Be sure to send your scary stories to my email. My email is in the description box below. Thank you guys for 9,000 subscribers. I can't wait to hit 10,000. It's going to be such a great milestone to reach. Have a great day, guys. Till we meet again, stay sinful.